Hello, it works, yeah. So I'm French too. My accent is not that well, so sorry for this. I came last year to present. It was another game. It was Valiant Hearts, a game I did at Ubisoft at the time, and after that I moved indie. So this is the first game I did as an indie studio. So it's much smaller, of course. It's not the same budget. And we tried in this game to make something a bit special, targeting a mobile game because it's more easy to develop on and to launch a game on mobile. So we decided to make a hybrid game between music, between stories, something a mix of different genres. And Katarina asked me to speak about one of the aspects of the game, that is the diversity in the game, and it's a diversity of characters. For example, as you can see, it's not only one main character as a man, a white man. It's two different characters, and also as you will see later, they are not the typical white guys you can see in most of the video games. So those are some of the games I worked on mostly at Ubisoft, of course, and now Lost in Harmony as the first indie game. There's a lot of different genres, and that's why it's very interesting now to mix all those things and to not try to make a game that is one specific genre. And sometimes it's disturbing for people. They say, but what is it? Is it an arcade game? Is it a fight game? What is it? So try to get out of those barriers of genre you usually see in video games. This year theme of FMX is called blending realities, and what is obvious is that reality is diversity. If you see those numbers of ethnical groups on Earth, there are a lot of them. So that was obvious to not make a typical character, even if it's not very original. It's not something far. In video game, as you have probably heard, there were a lot of talks about that last year. There were a lot of things about this. So I will not open the debate on this, but this is a reality in video game. We wanted to go far from this. And also because the public, the players of video games, they have changed a lot. And now the numbers, the statistics of it are really different. Like 50% of gamers are women. So there's no point to make games specifically for men gamers. So what can we do? There was a very interesting article last year, yeah, about this phenomenon of thing about equality of women and men in video games. And there was this sentence that was very funny. It's like by Mashable, who said, "Oh yes, sometimes it's coming from indie creators because there's not this kind of box where you have to make your game into certain rules, usually from the marketing team that ask you that your game has to be targeted for a certain public. So of course, when you go indie, you suddenly don't have those barriers anymore. So that's very interesting, and it's a good time to try to make something like this because you don't have those marketing team. So, oh, it's funny. So, and we started also within the team. We wanted to make a game not with only one with our culture, but we wanted to mix different genres, mostly for music. So the music it's a musical game. So the music was composed by different people. That was important to have this diversity in the soundtrack. That will lead to a game with a lot of different things inside, not just one type of music. That was very important. And also a diversity of art influence, of course. So this is Michel Gondry, is a French director, famous of movies, and then those very famous Japanese director. So the game was a kind of a mix of an Occidental, a Caucasian art direction, and also an Asian, a Japanese one. So, and some people, it's funny because a lot of people think that this game is Japanese. No, this game is a French game. But for Japanese players, they know that it's not Japanese at all. For them, we've been presenting the game for the first time at Tokyo Game Show, and that was funny to see that for Japanese they can figure out in 1 second that this is not Japanese. It's for us it looks a bit like Japanese. It's not. So that was funny, and this is after a lot of research, a lot of artworks. We had those two characters that are in a Japanese style, manga-ish, but that are not very neither Caucasian, neither Asian. The nose of so the boy is called Kaito. His nose is a bit African. If you in other parts of the game you can see. So it's a mix, it's a blend of those ethnic groups. That was very interesting to make this. And also another aspect of diversity that was very important into this game, it was the subject itself. So we wanted to talk about disease, a serious subject, and this is something we could probably have not done inside a big company because it could feel strange to talk about a serious subject like this into a game that is musical, that is also here to entertain you musically. So that was a very nice freedom to put all those things and to work with. So for this we worked with specialist doctors from Canada, from Princess Margaret Foundation, and they helped us to realize, to write the story, and to understand and to work with them directly to understand how we can talk about these things. So it was very important. And we did a partnership so that in the app, this is also what is nice with mobile game instead of console or maybe PC, but mostly console games, is that in a mobile game you can have links to other application. You're not closed into your application. You can put links to every website or every other apps, and that's very interesting because if people want to know more about a certain subject, or even if they want to participate for real into this subject, they can. You just have to put a link to an app or a website. In the console universe, it's much harder to put a link to a website. If you do that, well, there's a lot of rules that doesn't allow you to do it. In fact, so that was also an important aspect of the game. So all those things together make it a bit, in French we say ovni, it's a UFO kind of project, and it was very risky, of course. It was not the obvious choice of making a Candy Crush-like or something like this. And at the end, it really works. So I think the diversity is something that works because people, they are really curious. They want to discover those kind of experiences, and so do Apple and Google. So Apple is there. So Apple and Google, they are really keen to help and to feature those kind of games. So this is something. If you guys want one day to try to make your game, your app, this is something you can have in mind. Is like really being unique and original will pay off because you will stand out in the crowd of, there's like 2,000 games every week out there. So uniqueness and talking about serious subjects is probably something that can make a difference also with the other games. So this was a surprise for us. Honestly, we didn't thought that Google Play, it's not a very artistic place, Google Play Store. We were surprised in a good way that they helped us, they featured us. So yeah, this is a very nice conclusion to this first indie game experience. And basically, this game is not the best example of diversity into video game, of course. So there are a lot of new of areas where we can go even further and a lot further than what we did this time. Like, for example, by talking about the age, I don't know if it's a good translation I did, but you know, the age of the character, like we always have young main character in video games, and why not having not young video game characters? We also can make games about sensitive subjects, like religion, like other but it's already done. But some subject like migration. So all those subjects they can make really interesting video games. So I think it's just an opening to a lot of new games about those subjects, and there's no limit. In fact, what I've learned since Valiant Hearts is that there's no limit. We sometimes we think when we are specifically in a big company that there are some limits. You cannot talk about this in a video game. It's just here to entertain, and that's not true. You can do a video game on everything, as long as you do it well with a lot of research, and as long as you don't forget that it's still a video game. It still has to have the feeling and the fun of a video game in the activity, but still it allows you to speak about serious things inside. That's the main learning. So yeah, it's only the beginning, and there are a lot of projects coming on soon. So that's very good. Yeah. So that was very short. I prefer to have like questions and answer instead of talking.
Thank you very much, Yoan. Yeah. Before we open this to general questions, could you maybe explain a little bit about your transition from a major company to, and also, of course, the creative and the commercial, your economic decisions of going from really AAA production to indie? I think this is also, as a perspective for future productions in this realm, very interesting.
Yeah, I think the switch was mainly during Valiant Hearts, because it was a smaller game compared to Assassin's Creed. And then I discovered that a smaller game allows you to have a lot of freedom instead of being, a small part of a very big production. So that was the switching point. And after that, even more, by being indie, it's a total freedom suddenly. So it was obvious to go indie, even if it's not the same kind of structure and the same budget for a game. But still, you still have a lot of freedom as long as you are smart with your small budget. Yeah. But still, looking back now at my previous life at Ubisoft, I still think that Ubisoft is probably still the best big company where I could do Valiant Hearts and this kind of small games inside. If you compare it to the other big company like EA, Activision, all the other ones, there's no examples like Valiant Hearts in the other companies. So still, some big company continue to allow people to make some risky projects, and that's a good thing.
Do you have a particular approach, or from your past two projects that went into the direction of tackling real-life subjects more than your previous projects? Is there a different approach in analyzing your target groups? Because, well, if diversity plays a specific role, of course, in Valiant Hearts, there was maybe a new thinking behind using a topic like this of reaching out.
Yeah, this time there were no targeting in this one. This is maybe the biggest difference. As for Valiant Hearts, we knew that there was still the centenary of World War I, so and it was still for Occident, for Caucasian, for Western countries. As this one was a big risk because we didn't know, like typically music games, they are more played in Asia. But we didn't target them specifically. We just wanted to make a game with Occidental music also. So there were no targeting at the beginning. So, and I really didn't care about that. And at the end, it's funny when we now see the numbers. That's the first country to buy the game is US, but the second one is China. The third one is Russia, and the fourth is Brazil. So at the end, yeah, there's no. It's good because the risk was to find no public at the end because it's not Asian enough, it's not Western enough. But at the end, it's good because it allows everybody to play it. So at the end, it's a very good ending. Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Now that we are talking about your experience as a indie game producer or creator, you are telling us just do what you want and be as much as you can be as yourself. But when I look at your biography, I know that you had this long time at Ubisoft and you had all this experience up front. And, you know, I'm wondering, how much do you get out of this experience in order to launch a game now and to make it successful immediately?
So I
I
didn't
mean, you
get
learned a lot.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course, if I have started this experience 15 years ago as a first experience, it would probably not be a success like this, or at least I couldn't have launched it after 1 year, like only making a game in 1 year. And this is probably the biggest learning is like, it's better to go fast, to make something that is far from perfect, that is not the game of your dream, but it's better to do something, to finish it, because what is hard, if you've done video game, you know that it's easy to start a video game and it's very hard to finish a video game. That's why there are so many projects that are cancelled on the way. So I wanted to make sure that we finish a game, even if it's a small one, even if it has a lot of not good stuff at the end, but we still do it. And then we start a new production that will be stronger, bigger. So, and honestly, I didn't expect that success at the beginning. It was more training, a sort of training as an indie to discover those indie constraints that are really hard. So, and it's a good thing. They say the Americans they say sometimes fall hard but fall fast, something like this. And that was the idea. Like if we have to fall, I prefer we fall now than in 2, 3, 4 years, because we saw a lot of small indie games that are in production for many years. You discuss with them and they're still passionate, but after 3, 4, 5 years in the same project, you start to be, looping in your project and your subject. So it's not good. It's better to tackle it quickly, and even if it's not perfect.
Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you very
Thanks.
much, Yoan, for being here with us today.